bring in our hockey insider, Daily Faceoff, dailyfaceoff.com. He's our buddy. He's Frank Seravalli. He is he's right in the belly of the beast. How are you? How's the air? How's the mood? How's everything going?
How's the office space there?
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit smoky here. Did you guys get some smoke?
Yeah.
Have they started burning shit there yet, or what? What's the story?
Oh, Ryan.
I'm teasing.
Oh,
Easy.
Ryan.
Edmonton, not Vancouver.
Frank Seravalli joining us from the Oilers Nation studios, I believe. Is that what you'd call it, studios?
I would prefer to call it the Daily Faceoff Studios, but
fair enough. Yeah, we'll go with that. I guess you can imagine what we're talking about. It is the Oilers. They're trailing in the series. They can certainly come back and win this thing, but it becomes now, how are you net? How are you in the blue line? Are you constructed to get past Vancouver, and then what awaits you in round 3 and again in round 4? It becomes kind of the micro macro right now.
Where do you want me to start? I mean, macro, what's abundantly clear to me is that neither one of these teams is beating Dallas or Colorado, to say nothing of getting to a cup final and winning. They're both incredibly flawed. Neither one has depth scoring. At least the Canucks have some mojo. They have an ability to come back, and they've gotten goaltending from Artur Shilovs. Man, there's some real questions about Edmonton's goaltending that I think they've got an incredible dilemma and decision on their hands for Game 4.
Could they really go to Pickard here? I mean, what are we talking about? That's the guy that clears waivers every single year that makes like league min. Like,
I don't care. To me, what it comes down to is, do you have a chance to win with Stuart Skinner? And my answer is, we've seen enough of a sample size to know that that's no. Let me provide some, again, micro. Series save percentage is .793 for these playoffs. A little bit larger scale. His minus 5.7 goals expected means he's given up almost 6 more goals than he should. And then if you want to go macro, look at the last 2 playoff runs. He's played 20 games, an .881 save percentage. And when you consider what that means in the grand scheme, that is the worst save percentage in the salary cap era of any goalie with at least 15 games played. Not like there's 69 goalies that meet that criteria that have played 15 or more games in the salary cap era. He's 69th, and that's not nice.
Yeah. What? Well, do you want to stay on the goaltending here? Do you know?
You know what?
Pickard, though. Well, what's the incentive to keep Skinner? You're giving up so few shots a game, 18 last night. You don't need an absolute world beater in net. You just need somewhat passable, competent, level stuff.
Because I think it's a 2-1 series, and it's been close, right? They were 1 shot away from winning. They could be up 3-0, but it's panic time. That's how it goes when you get to this point in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And it's fans reacting online. Is there a world where we see Jack Campbell come back?
I raised that question last night just among peers at the game, saying there's no cap in the playoffs.
He's there. He's a black ace.
I don't think they trust him. I think his teammates really like him, but to me, he's an unquestionably better goalie than Cal Pickard. It's just that Pickard played better this season at the NHL level, but Campbell's actually been fine when it comes to the playoffs. And here's the other part about Skinner for me. They kept Jay Woodcroft last year, kept going back to him every single time. Oh, he'll figure it out. And he just never did. What makes you think this time around that the results are going to be any different? I don't care that he's your goalie of the future. I don't care. Like, there are serious Mitch Marner vibes here. From Edmonton, great regular season player, has shown no ability so far in 2 playoff runs to be able to get the job done. I'm not playing on, what the long odds are or the long game. I need someone that's going to even up the series for me in Game 4, because you could make the argument that the Oilers are up 3-0 in this series had they gotten even somewhat passable goaltending. They don't blow the lead in Game 1. They won Game 2 as it is, and Game 3, they had the better looks and chances and gave up probably 3 goals that they shouldn't have.
What do you make of the Nurse CC pair? Because it's not been great work in front of whoever's going to play in net.
It hasn't been anywhere near good enough. I think they'd be the first to tell you that. But honestly, that's not even after Skinner. That's not the second biggest concern for me from Edmonton's perspective. It's you just hit on the ice time.
Yeah.
And this stat, still 12 hours after the fact blows my mind. McDavid and Draisaitl played 13 of the 20 minutes in the third period. 13.
Yeah.
They're not getting a drop from anyone else in their lineup. Corey Perry looks like he's washed.
Yep.
The rest of the guys on their team, nothing. This is a tale as old as time when it comes to the Oilers and the playoffs. Is you've got two guys going, and by the way, Bouchard has been good. Ekholm has been unreal. 3 goals in 3 games, and nothing else. Nothing.
Yeah, it's weird. They're old too, Frank. Like you look at that roster, there's no wave of the next guys. It's a lot of 30 to 35-year-old journeymen that just they're not going to be, the lights are too bright, but you're old. Like you're not quick.
This was supposed to be the year.
Retro, go ahead. I know you had something there.
We're kind of bouncing all around.
It's all right. It's good.
Part of the problem also with McDavid and those guys, I see why Knobloch would put him out there for that much. You're in a game and you're close. You're trying to win. You can't play 30 minutes a night for
every other night.
Another 6 months.
Yeah, you're in round 2.
You're done.
He flat out said after the game, it's unsustainable.
Yeah. Like it's just not. And I mean, micro, macro, I think they're in a pile of shit, Edmonton, because like you said, Frank, even if the win, are they winning the next 2 rounds?
It's at least 6 games here, right? If they win.
They're in trouble.
They're in big trouble. And I'm glad that you said pile of shit, because I just wanted to read for you my first 2 sentences in my story today.
Yes.
That sound you hear, that's the Edmonton Oilers season swirling in the bowl with Stuart Skinner jiggling the toilet handle. The Oilers are swimming in you-know-what in the deep end of the pool now.
That's poetry, Frank.
I just like a good poo reference every now and again.
It fits on this show. We can't really.
Yeah.
Well, and and you can start playing the death song, but is it not
to me? It doesn't matter. You can beat the Canucks this series.
Yeah,
like that's what I'm saying. Like they very well may still win this series, and it's far from over. But there's nothing that I could point to in this round to say this is a team that can compete.
Yeah, like is Derek Ryan going to step up and in the next round and be good? And Corey Perry, all of a sudden, he's going to find it and be good. And the
Dylan
trade,
Holloway, McLeod,
frickin' trade they made.
Evander Kane, where are you?
Well, he doesn't even like it
He's
there
been
anymore. It's his
neutralized by
third year
Zadorov.
there. He's bored. He needs out. Everyone's annoyed with him, and he doesn't. For sure, he's not fitting in anymore.
But
And
where
not to
are
re-
these guys?
And not to repeat ourselves, but Rhett kind of touched on it there, and I think it was before we got you on. It's a Monday. The deadline deal that they made with their first round pick, it really didn't address. I mean, I don't know. We're sitting here talking about lack of depth, scoring depth. So they did that. They added a couple of depth guys, but it's had no impact for them whatsoever through a round and a half.
It's been hurt.
So
None.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Jake,
I don't know what else was out there. I don't know.
That's
right.
depth.
Hey, I just spent 7 minutes on our Daily Face-Off live show today, and if you get a chance, go back and look at the link. We just broke down Chris Tanev and how he's neutralized Nathan McKinnon. To me, I look at the trade deadline acquisitions and I say, yet another reminder that less is more. Why did you give up a first round pick for Henrique and then you get Carrick and you healthy scratch him since game 3 of last round?
Yeah.
And you bring back Connor Brown, who gives you nothing instead of Carrick in the playoffs. It doesn't make any sense to me. And go through the rest of the league. Like Colorado, significant. They changed out 25% of their roster at the deadline. They're trailing 2-1. You look at Carolina, they made maybe the biggest individual deal of the deadline, getting Jake Gensel. They trail 3-1. I mean, go through each of these teams, and the Rangers, they're in the driver's seat. They trade for Wenberg and Roslovic. These aren't like crazy big acquisitions, and the Stars didn't give up a first to get Tanev. Like, it just, less is more. I'm a big believer in that, and we all get caught up in the sexiness of the first round pick and the big splash, and it never really seems to work.
So
Except when it does. I mean, the problem is there's one cup, right? Like, we like the Barbashev trade that Vegas made last year. They won the bloody cup.
Yeah, but was Barbashev a big name splash?
No, but my point is, like, the real correlation here is the teams with the best goalies have won every series. Have they not? That and special teams, to me, is way bigger than the deadline.
But I think the Oilers are proof enough that special teams alone you can't win. Their power play before the last two opportunities in the third period, which, by the way, it's amazing that they got 2 and didn't score. Yeah. They were 4 for 6 for the series.
Crazy. And that's with a couple goals coming after penalties that expired. Like, there's 2 more that are almost power play goals.
So okay, so we're beating it up pretty good, and that's great. What is the problem? Because we've said now goaltending's no good. Their defense can't handle it, and they don't have any depth up front. Like, that's a team that's a long ways off if all 3 are right.
Goaltending hides a lot, right?
Yep.
When you're winning games and your goalie's making saves, you don't need to look for warts or nitpick your depth or how many goals you're scoring 5-on-5. You don't need to. No one's talking about that in Vancouver today. It's about, hey, we're up in a series. This guy's been great. Because you're right. If they're getting just a little better goaltending, they're probably up in this series. And you're not worried at all about what you got for your first round pick at the deadline or your depth or any of it.
What's the old line? Goaltending's 30% of the game. Unless you're not getting any, then it's 100.
Close. Yeah, I'm not a math guy, but now as we do this, fine for Nikita Zadorov. He's going to be a little lighter in the wallet, and Carson Soucy is going to have a phone hearing for what took place at the 20-minute mark,
the buzzer,
at the buzzer. So there it is. I mean, there's a few things there. McDavid chops at Soucy. Soucy chops him back, goes to cross-check him, and just as McDavid it's bad timing. It's tough timing. So the cross-check from behind puts McDavid off balance, and while doing so, goes teeth first into the cross-check from Carson Soucy, who I don't think was intending to cross-check him in the mouth.
No,
but did. So yes. What's your read? This is a high-profile deal. It's the playoffs, and it's the world's best player on the receiving end.
I think this is a 1-game suspension all day long, and I don't think it really has anything to do with who's on the receiving end of it. It shouldn't, at least. And it shouldn't mean anything about what the intent is. The best way I can put this is, if I'm driving a car and I blow through a stop sign and I hit you and I kill you, I didn't intend to kill you, but I blew through a stop sign. Maybe
less violent
Carson
analogy you could
Soucy
have used, but sure, okay.
Well, Carson Soucy probably intended to cross-check him in the chest, but because Nikita Zadorov came in and double-teamed him, then you end up cross-checking him in the face.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the intent is. It matters what the end result is, which is a cross-check delivered to a face after the game has ended.
Yeah, and if McDavid loses 2 rows of teeth and is out with a concussion, I think you get a big number, but that he was in a scrum, he skated off just fine. It feels like an easy 1 game here, doesn't it?
The response that, if you wanted to play devil's advocate, would be, had this happened in a regular season game, would you say that it's worth the equivalent of 3?
2 or 3, yeah.
Was that the Brian Burke?
I don't know. Maybe not. I think you could probably see it both ways. Yeah. That's really what we get down to when it comes to the equation that Department of Player Safety tries to calculate, which is, it's the second round, games mean more, and does this really equate to 3 or 4 in the regular season?
Yeah, it's interesting you put it that way. You could argue both ways, that because of, it's at the buzzer, McDavid did chop him first, it's the playoffs, here's a fine. Or you could go the other way, it's the playoffs, games are more important, you're getting 2 games. I don't know. I'm kind of with you, Ryan.
I think if you do nothing, what you leave yourself to is your own devices. It's a free for all, and it is the exact opposite of what the Department of Player Safety should be here for, which is to protect players.
Let's flip it a little bit, and then we will move on. But what do you make of what Vancouver has done? It's a lot of what Edmonton hasn't been doing, and all of this. This has been very much by design for Rick Tocchet and the Canucks. They are getting unbelievable goaltending, but beyond that, they have been hard on McDavid and Draisaitl. They have been doing their penalty kill is doing as good as any penalty kill is going to do, it seems. But they're following their script.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not going to come on here and fillet a penalty kill that's 50% for the series.
Nice verb.
That said, I thought game 3 for them, they made some really critical adjustments. Yes, the Oilers had the puck the entire time, it felt like, in the third period for the second game in a row.
Yep.
However, the big difference was instead of wave after wave of the Oilers coming at you and creating chances and outworking you, the Canucks were way better at killing plays and trying to stop and halt momentum. They didn't play with the puck at the other end of the ice, but they didn't really need to because they'd done such a better job of keeping the Oilers to the perimeter in the third period. That didn't happen in game 2. They're not able to hang on, and the Oilers have this furious comeback of 3 different deficits and win game 2. It's obvious that they spent a long time watching that game 2 and trying to pick through what made Edmonton so successful. And their structure was it was elite in terms of how they played.
And we're seeing why Rick Tocchet's going to win in a landslide for Jack Adams, I imagine. I mean, just think about this group last year, and I know there's been some tweaks, but it really looks like a group that he's been teaching all year for this kind of a test, so to speak.
That and I would say the buy-in has been there, and I also really like the deployment of their players. It's not Quinn Hughes and Philip Roenick that are the stars of this series for the Canucks on their back end.
Yeah.
It has been a healthy dose of that. That's why this Soucy suspension is at such a critical juncture of the season, the series, if there is one, is because him and Myers have been the guys that have been going toe to toe with McDavid and Draisaitl this round. And they've gotten a lot of Ian Cole, who's had some bad turnovers, but also Nikita Zadorov. Like it's been their bigger, stronger guys that they've deployed at a time when some coaches might opt for, hey, I want the skilled guy who makes, great plays with the puck to get us out of trouble. In this case, we're just throwing our bigs at you, and we're going to be confident in their structure.
Ian Cole has 2 goals in the last 2 games. I don't know if you've been watching closely.
Yeah, depending on how you would count the ones that came off of his stick in game 1, the turnovers, I'd say the number's actually north of that.
He's got more of that. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Talking about a team that is, you set up the script and you try and follow it. Dallas is up on Colorado. Big game tonight. Looks like Johnny Drouin could make his return for Colorado, but it's a weird one because it's been so close. You look at two empty net goals, and the last one kind of give the impression that that's a more lopsided game than what it was. But Colorado's never had a lead. The win that they get comes in overtime in game 1. They haven't had a lead at any point in this series. Dallas is playing some big boy hockey right now.
They are, and they've done it every game right from Jump Street, which is super impressive. The fact that Colorado's on the board, the fact that they almost erased a 4-goal deficit in game 2, it's a testament to how well Dallas had played prior to that point. When you look at their efficiency, they're basically beating the Avs at their own game. They've been able to make and succeed with some serious quick strike opportunities. We timed it out today on our show. 6 seconds from their own goal line to the back of Colorado's net, and they've done it 2 or 3 times this series.
Jeez.
That's the one thing about Colorado is they are a really dangerous team, but because of the way that they play with their high octane, that also leaves them susceptible and liable to, things going back the other way in a hurry. That's what made Winnipeg so successful against them in the regular season. They couldn't adjust when it came to the playoffs. Colorado just bowled them over. This time with Dallas, they're meeting their match in depth.
Yeah.
And they're meeting their match in how quickly and efficiently Dallas moves the puck. Tanev is a great example. He's not fast by any stretch of the imagination, but he thinks fast. And maybe the most underrated and important part of Tanev's game is that he underhandles the puck. There is no sexiness to what he does. It's on his stick and off of it in a flash, and it's typically on the tape of the next guy, and they're gone.
Yeah, that play that it was in the game the other night, and I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was the Sagan backdoor on the feed by Dadonov. It's a play along the boards. It's quick, but it's on the tape. He takes a hit to make the play, and it's a huge goal.
It's not sexy.
Yeah, and here we are. We talk about the Oilers, and you bemoan the lack of depth, and we've talked about it a number of times, even in our conversations. Dallas Stars had 8 20-goal guys.
Lots of depth.
That's a lot of depth. That's a lot of depth. So I don't know. On one hand, I watch Colorado, and I feel like when they're on their game, I don't know who beats them, but having watched this series, it's just Dallas is in there with, they're in there with the knockout specialist. And they're like, you know what? Let's go out into the deep water and let's see how we can handle you out here. I've been really impressed. And Ottinger, we know, is a great goalie, but it's been quite a show.
Are you saying I should feel good about my preseason and playoff cup pick?
Well, sure. I mean,
it's early.
Rangers might have something to say about it because
8 teams left.
They've looked pretty good, and Florida as well. Boston they look like they look done to me.
That was their chance, wasn't it? They had a lead there in the third.
Sam Bennett, what a guy, right in the middle of everything.
There's a bunch of those guys on that team. You talk about Cousins, you talk about Kachuk, Bennett, Gadjevich.
But Bennett is out for the series, comes back. Marchand is out, gets a controversial goal to tie things up, and now it's a 3-1 series. And I saw you kind of nod there, Retro. I don't even know if it was so much that the Bruins gave everything they had to beat the Leafs. I don't know if it's that. They just look really outmatched here against the Panthers. Red. No. Yes.
Were you asking me, or
I am asking you? Yes, because you were
typically when they say Rhett twice, that's what they mean.
Well, we do have Frank on too, so I'd like to let Frank speak first.
Yeah, I know.
I think they got looked outmatched at times with Toronto.
Yeah,
like there were times where Toronto absolutely took it to them. So I think Boston's a good team, but I think you're going to look back on the last decade and go, they never came through either. Maybe it just speaks to how hard it is to win, but going 7 was no help for them. They're going to get tired. They're going to get more beat up. And Florida, to be quite honest, looks younger, fresher, and more aggressive and better built for playoff hockey.
Yep.
And you lose your captain, it hurts. I don't know. What else could you say?
Yeah.
Florida looks better right now.
They sure do.
And we're huge favorites going in. I mean, I think we all sort of thought whoever wins game 7 was going to be cannon fodder for the Panthers anyway.
Yeah, the same way I feel about whoever won Leafs Bruins game 7 is the same way I feel about whoever wins Vancouver Edmonton.
Yeah. And even if you get Demko back, even if you get like some goaltending in Edmonton, like I understand like what you feel about them. I feel the same way. It's just we've seen some of these things change so quickly this postseason.
Yeah, and I that's why it's hard to really kind of definitively try and put a stake in the ground because, like I said, I do think there's a real chance that they still come back and win this series because Vancouver has their own flaws. It's not like they've played like a super deep team these playoffs either. They're like, anytime Ilya Mikheyev gets the puck on his stick, I know I can open my laptop because that's where scoring chances go to die. Like they've got a bunch of guys that just haven't shown up. Sam Lafferty, is he even in this playoffs? Like there's been a few guys like that, but I don't see any of that in Dallas and Colorado, not at any stretch. And it even seems like the game is faster. It's more physical. Like maybe I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so maybe that's just what it looks like on TV. But having spent round 1 with the Canucks, now round 2 with the Canucks and Oilers, like they're not on the same level.
There's different levels.
Yeah,
totally. Is Montgomery? I'm going back to the Florida, Boston. Montgomery, to me, behind the bench, and I guess maybe I've not paid attention to it. I'm kind of asking. He looked pissed off and rattled through the Toronto series and again in this series, in my opinion. Like it was like he was barking at guys in typically playoff hockey, you can talk to guys, you'll be hard on them and stuff. I'm not looking to pat everyone on the back and say it's always just funsies, but it seemed like there was a certain almost animosity and aggressiveness in how he was speaking to his players behind the bench. Or I don't know, has anyone noticed that? And is that
I said the same thing.
yeah.
Game 7 against Toronto, he was barking at Marchand, and then he was kind of vibrating on the bench. He doesn't give off that feel of, hey,
We got this.
This is the 4th game of round 2. It's a long way to go. We've got this. I get that from Tocchet watching him through all of this. He looks very comfortable. But yeah, I'm with you. We've seen his wires touch, I think was how somebody kind of referred to it.
And Frank, like I didn't remember him being this guy when he was in Dallas. And I know there's some weird circumstances around that departure, but he came in, he was happy-go-lucky. Everyone loves this guy. That's not what we've seen this playoffs, or are we overcharacterizing things?
No, I don't think you're overcharacterizing it. What I would say is put yourself in his shoes. You have 2 magical regular seasons. You have 234 points. And almost for the second year in a row, your team chokes like a dog in round 1. You pull it out in game 7, but I don't know about you guys. I would be on edge too, knowing that had we lost game 7, I'm probably losing my job after 2 unbelievable regular seasons. That said, I don't know why or how that should translate over to round 2. It should feel like a bit of an exhale and deep breath. And, hey, stoicism is probably the best policy here, because I've said this before when it comes to Sheldon Keefe, so I need to be equally as critical this time around. I think your team feeds off of whatever your comportment is, whatever your style is. If you're complaining about every call and feeling like you're getting screwed over, your players are feeding off of that. If you're tense and nervous, your players see that, they embody it. And I just think that's a real thing in terms of how the coach presents himself, which is why I like that Rick Tocchet. I don't know if you saw the video, but he jumped off the bench after their game 1 comeback win.
Yeah.
And then he was asked about it the next day, and he was like, man, I was so disappointed in myself. Like, he hated that he was excited because he said, he goes, it was game 1. Like, to your point, Boom, we've got a long way to go. You're not celebrating anything in round 2, game 1, but yet he had the self-awareness to say, I didn't like the way that looked, even though this is the entertainment business and you'd be perfectly rightful to be happy after your team overcame a 3-goal deficit and won in regulation on home ice.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. So does he need to, given the circumstances, it was a crazy come from behind win. He high-fived some fans and went into the room. Oh, okay, as a coach, you want to be. That's different to me than a coach that's kind of losing his cool a little bit on the bench. Anyway,
I saw him after the game last night. I said, how you doing? He goes, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet he is.
I know well.
We'll let you get on your way because I know you got stuff to do. But what besides, I mean, whether it's within the 4 series or anything hockey related going on here as we get into the week?
I actually, because it's Barn Burner, wanted to just mention that I dropped a pod today on Frankly Speaking with Lanny McDonald.
Oh, nice.
We went through his whole story, and it's such an incredible one. He's actually now just connecting with the amazing, first responders, Good Samaritans that stepped in to help him. Amazingly enough, none of them are hockey fans and had no idea who he was. So I can't imagine sort of rolling someone over with that, iconic mustache and not living in Alberta, but someone was on their way to Hawaii. One of them wants no credit at all, doesn't even want her name being mentioned. It's an incredible story, and we got into all of it.
And I guess just for people, we find that where? On
Wherever you get your pods, frankly speaking. It's also the entire video interview dropped on the Daily Faceoff YouTube page just now. So just a one-on-one. And by the way, I didn't realize this. We know that he's finishing out his tenure as chairman of the Hockey Hall of Fame, but I didn't realize that last year he was named a trustee of the Stanley Cup, and I didn't really even know what that meant. But it's a lifelong position, and you are literally tasked with guarding and protecting the Stanley Cup. There's only 2 Stanley Cup trustees at any one given time. There's only been like 7 since 1893. It's actually kind of a cool. So I asked him what that means, and we talked all about the Flames' upcoming 35th anniversary this summer of their 1989 win.
Right on. All right, we'll give that a look-see. Frankly,
I'm going to give that a push on social too, and we'll retweet that video from the Flames Nation page as well, Frankie. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's honestly the stories. He got emotional even just talking about it. Still 6-8 weeks later, he's back to walking 5-6 miles a day. This is a guy that took care of himself too, like a giant of a man. That you start to think about that situation being in the Calgary airport. He said 5 minutes earlier on the plane, 5 minutes later in the parking lot. Yeah, probably doesn't make it. Like they actually broke his sternum. Like you think about how big Lanny is, and I'm sure you guys have all shook his hand at some point. Like this is a humongous guy. They were wailing on him so hard to try and revive him that they broke his sternum. And his wife Ardell had said, do you have to hit him so hard? Like she actually stopped the first responders. Like, do you have to do that? And it's like, hey, this is our only chance to save his life.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Awesome. We will get to that. Now, we're going to let you go, but you're in the Oilers Nation.
It's the Daily Face.
I know.
No.
This is between us. It's just us chatting right now. How are they? How's the mood up
How
there?
tense is it?
How are they doing?
The sky is falling here.
Yeah.
Okay. Draisaitl's a free agent in like 13 months.
Yeah, you may want to let them know.
Just
realize, hey guys, did you?
July 1st, that extension will be announced.
Is Draisaitl coming up due for a new deal? I had no idea.
Can you imagine if Cal Pickard starts Game 4?
I mean, you planted the seed nicely, Frank. I'll give you credit.
Or Jack Campbell. I'm here for all of it.
And to Frank's point, or Stuart Skinner at this point.
I got nothing but time.
If they go into the room and they say, hey guys, we haven't seen him in 6 months because he's been in the minors, but by the way, Soup is starting Game 4.
Well, and this is why I think they got to stay with Skinner, because doesn't it feel like panic if they go to anyone else, or is it too late for that now? They're already panicking.
They already pulled him. Pickard already went in for the third period.
Yeah.
And Chris Knobloch had the opportunity after the game. Hey, are you going back to Stuart Skinner? He goes, oh no, I'm not committing to anything right now. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
We hear you. We got you.
His buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also just like, why would you tell your opponent, right? Like keep them guessing too.
Well,
I don't think the Canucks would.
No, they're probably fine with all the options at this point. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Who will be starting Game 4? I haven't spoken with Connor yet, so when he tells me when he tells me who we should start, who he wants to start,
is he the goalie coach?
It's hard to say. Thank you, Frank.
See you guys.
There he is, Frank Seravalli. So, frankly speaking, as he said on the YouTubes and wherever you get your podcasts, good stuff there.
Gonna watch that stuff. That's exciting.
Yeah,
Lanny, love Lanny. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.